I think first of all we should clarify. Cho.
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 Cho. Cho.
Not John Woo.
Not Woo.
Not
Cho.
Not James Wan. No.
Not Chow. Cho. Cho.
Got
Cho
it?
Chu. Everyone
Got
clear?
it? All right. Here we go.
All right.
What's going on, John Cho?
Hey man, I loved your movie. I haven't talked to you since I saw it, and I just wanted to say congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Congratulations, it's an achievement. The first thing I have to ask you is like production design. The difference to me from reading the book and seeing it on screen, and so something I was sort of taken aback by was how effective hearing like a British educated person would be. And so you sort of get this whole royal thing that I couldn't get in the book because of course I'm using my own voice to read all the dialogue. And when you sort of hear these people, that royalty thing gets so, it's almost like bas relief. It like comes at you and it's so distinct and it's so effective. And on that note, like on the production design, what I thought, I was like, I think Jon is going, what he's doing is, because there's a bunch of different ways to shoot all this, and I'm sorry for rambling.
No, it's good.
But like, for me, it's like what he's doing is creating, like almost going back in time and creating, going back to old Hollywood and inserting these faces into the language of, you know, you're using vocabulary from much older films. You know, like Humphrey Bogart's wardrobe, and you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And bringing old Hollywood, inserting Asian faces into old Hollywood, and almost creating step one. Because we're over here at step 36, and you're going, well, we didn't actually ever establish step one, and going back and creating movie stars in the language of golden Hollywood. Was that your approach? Can you confirm that that was your approach? And be like, then what is sort of the, where do you start? Who do you talk to? What are the discussions like?
Well, one of the first things that made me want to make a movie like this was the starring Jon Cho movement, which I remember at the time when they started inserting your face into all those movie posters, from Bond to whatever. It was as if I had never, like a light turned on, the electricity turned on. I had never really thought deeply. Maybe I didn't want to. Maybe I didn't want to like think about how hard it would be to change things. But when I saw your face in those, because you are a leading man. You are the leading man. You could have been in any of those movies, and for some reason it wouldn't cross our mind. It was such a weird sort of mirror that went into my head when I saw that, being like, oh shit, why aren't we doing this? And who can do that? And realizing, oh, I'm one of the few people who actually on the ground makes movies. I can literally say, I want to cast this person, and I can go to battle for whatever that is. So the fact that you came before and have already established that makes a big difference. It's how we can see that it exists. And I know you didn't have it easy to fight through that to get there, I think means so much. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, yes, we definitely, I didn't start there necessarily that I wanted to do some sort of throwback thing. It was in the discovery of the world when I started to do research of Kevin Kwan's family, actually, of their house. That is sort of the inspiration of Tyersall Park. The pictures are like tropical Art Deco style. I don't even know what you call it, Peranican with sort of tropical deco things to it, and it looked like The Great Gatsby with Asian faces. And I was like, what? And I remember thinking about my mom's old pictures, and so I started looking through her old pictures, and they had these, the way they dressed, the way they acted. There was a sophistication to it that was rarely sort of reflected in our stories here. Right. And then I started listening to the music, and that was also like the stuff from, I remember playing it for my mom for the first time, and she's like, just the soundtrack that I was putting together on my Spotify, And she's like, her eyes lit up like she was 14 years old. And she's like, I used to dance to this stuff in China. Me and your dad used to do the jitterbug to this. And she became this teenager. And it was amazing to watch. And I knew we were onto something interesting. If people hadn't seen this, and as soon as we got onto that road, the ideas of, this is a throwback sort of idea of how to create the groundwork for the movie star to show that we could have been in any of these movies in the past. We just weren't given the opportunity to.
Well, it's interesting what you've done here, and I feel like, the starring John Cho thing sort of tapped into that. It's almost like breaking the 4-minute mile or something, or somebody doing a 720 on a skateboard. You go, okay, I don't think that's possible, and I think people were like, you just can't make an all Asian movie. That's just not a thing.
Yeah.
And then what I saw with the poster, what that.
How did you first see it though?
It was just on Twitter, and somebody was like, "You should see this thing on Twitter," and I saw it. And what was interesting was it was all like stuff we'd been talking about, but it was like on a poster, and it was like boom. In an instant, you go, oh, okay, well, that's not so weird.
Yeah, that's true.
But of course, that's not the movie. But it's a poster, and the concept is suddenly not weird anymore, because you're like, oh, okay. And then, for me, then you took it, of course, to the end, to its terminus, by making a movie and going, look at this. It's not impossible anymore.
But you're right. I think that it was the image, a finished image.
Yeah.
Well photoshopped, of course,
Yeah.
by some person somewhere. Many people, many places doing all different ones. That, as soon as you see it, you can't unsee it anymore. Right. There's this great, I don't know if it was a TED Talk or something, one of those talks that are on Facebook, and I was watching it, and the guy is showing this pattern of black and white splotches. And he says, we judge people and judge things and make judgments upon only the things that we know from the past. And so he's like, what do you see in this black and white image? And everyone's saying, oh, that's a butterfly, oh, it's like rivers, oh, it's this and that. And then he dissolves an image behind it, and it's a snake, and it's the pattern of the snake coiled up. And he's like, and everyone's like, oh, it's a snake pattern. And then he dissolves the image back, and he's like, now what do you see? And you can only see the snake anymore. You cannot unsee the snake. And I think that is, I think that image of the starring John Cho had that impact, and I think our movie has a little impact in everything that comes out. And again, our movie is one perspective of one, story of a fairy tale in a way, and that we just have to have more and more to inform more and more.
Yeah,
so people see us in many different lights.
I think that's the unfair thing that you guys have had to deal with, but you dealt with it very gracefully, I must say, which is sort of like having to be all things. Is this sort of carry the burden of being the first? And
I would love to know your journey in that, because I don't know if you know this, but I was there at Sundance when you guys showed Better Luck Tomorrow. I think I had a short film showing at Slam Dance, and so I got snuck into that screening where Roger Ebert stood up and defended it to this other dude, and the energy was electric in that fight, and they had to kick everyone out because the next screening was coming, and then it happened. I don't remember if you were in that hallway as well, but I was right there, and that had a profound effect on me.
Interesting.
And of how what kind of responsibilities you, especially way ahead at that time, of representing what people think is like a whole group of people.
Well, it's interesting because I will do it in a roundabout way, which is to make an observation, which is I was watching your film and thinking, I started my career I made my name in comedies, and it sort of wandered into it. And what was interesting about doing comedies was it was a very fraught minefield for me, because I was always like, so it was a very uncomfortable position because I was being offered comedy roles, but I would always go, is this funny because it's Asian? And even if it wasn't written Asian, I'm like, will they accidentally laugh because it's Asian, because it's me? And
were you conscious of that?
Yes, I was always very, very conscious of that. and scared almost. And I didn't want to make a wrong move. I didn't want it to be interpreted the wrong way. I turned down stuff and would say, I don't think this is racist, but I think me doing it, it will make the laughs come from a racist place. And so I'm pulling myself out.
You did that specifically on several projects.
Yes.
Wow.
So then,
That's one that is, just before you continue, is so brave and so hard to do as just knowing how hard it is to be an actor in this town, to turn down anything. So the fact that you have done that and never said a word about it, or never, maybe your friends and family, but like, for everyone out there, that is unheard of and incredible, especially at that time.
well, thanks. I mean, it seemed easier than doing it, to be honest with you. And then, we can talk about that more, but like, for me, watching your film, I was like, look at these people, they're free because, and this is the same thing I get from watching, a Korean film that
Yes.
an all Korean cast, in Korean, and I'm thinking, they don't have to think about that. And so therefore what you have is a much broader array of characters. What you have when people have to avoid racist roles, and people are afraid to write racist roles, is you get the honorable judge, who cares? Or the good cop, who's the third speaking role, and they're all nothing burger roles, And what you have in Crazy Rich Asians is the ability to go, well, this cast is all Asian. We don't have to worry about it, and so I saw a kind of kaleidoscope of personalities that you never ever see, because people are free from that, and no one has to sort of check themselves. It was really remarkable, and for me, I was really gratified coming from comedy, being able to see comic characters who are speaking in accents, but they don't have to have the burden of being in a white film.
Exactly.
Because the same character in a white film is tough.
Totally.
You know what I mean?
And the fact that we can still make fun of ourselves in
Right.
our way
Yeah.
shows a confidence that when you're the only person in that you can't, it's weighted in a different way.
So I'll go back to you. Very early on, one of my first jobs was dating myself here. It was a sitcom called The Jeff Foxworthy Show.
I didn't know you were 60 years old. That's amazing.
So the line was, I was a Chinese food delivery guy with a Texas accent, and a Southern accent, and he was surprised that I didn't have a Chinese accent. That was the joke. And I talked myself into doing it because I was like, okay, he's not speaking Ching Chong. It's gonna be funny because he's doing a Southern accent. So I did it, and I deeply regretted it on the day, standing there. Why? Because, they were laughing. It's an excuse to laugh at the Ching Chong joke. And when I looked out at that soundstage, and it's different now, but at the time, this was the late 90s, it was all older white men, all. The crew was all white men, and I was like, they were laughing. And I was like, I never want this feeling again.
Wow.
I was sick.
Wow.
And it's not a big deal.
Did you talk to anybody about it?
I talked to my friends and family about
did?
it, and I said, I never want that feeling again. And so all I did was try and avoid that feeling, which is not fair, whatever, but that was my experience. But again, I thought back to that, watching that, going, those guys don't feel that. Look at their performances. They're free from that. Because for me, if you put any of those characters in a different context, as an actor, that's a tough thing to do. But then look at, and they're all great characterizations.
Yeah.
But it's just the circumstance,
Yes.
paints it in a certain political light.
Totally. And we get to play with that with Ken Jeong coming into a scene with the accent to get people to react
Yeah,
and
yeah,
then
yeah.
be like,
Yeah.
no, fuck you.
Yeah, I love that joke.
I went to Cal State Fullerton or whatever it was. So we get to have fun with that, but that's because we get to have fun with that, not someone else.
I think that's a cinema first, mentioning
Yeah.
Cal State Fullerton.
By the way, I think they're giving him an award for it or something because they had a screening there for him specifically
That's
and all this
hilarious.
stuff. They really Cal State Fullerton loves Ken Jeong. It's really great. But you know, I'm actually amazed that you had that profound thoughts at such a young age. I had the opposite. I honestly had could not see. I mean, I grew up in the Bay Area, and it's not as diverse as it was now, but it wasn't. I never felt. I felt, of course, embarrassed when I brought dumplings to school and the kids would make fun of the smell, or if my parents, their car smells like Chinese food because they have a Chinese restaurant. Of course, there's all those things, but like, in a way, I was like, oh, I'm not like the foreign kids. I'm not like that guy. I'm not like the guy that's on TV, so I'm cool. I'm normal, whatever that was. I don't think it was till much later where I realized, oh no, this is all.
Yeah, right.
These are my friends. These are my family. This is me. I don't know if it was I was just young but it's interesting because I think a lot of people have that. What I've realized, especially through this experience of like, you're sort of, finding your confidence about who you are, and we are automatically attached to how we look because that's how we are judged, or, and so, I don't know. It was very interesting and a complicated journey to come back around, which is why I loved this idea that Rachel Chu, an Asian American, would represent American values going into Singapore, and that anyone of any ethnicity who was American could understand those values, and she was the one who, that was a reflection of you, no matter what you look like, where you come from, that she represented those things, and I think that you were on her side because that's your thing,
Right.
And
it's an interesting thing. It's very difficult. I think growing up Asian in America, you often think you're looking at yourself in a mirror, but you're really looking through white America's eyeballs at yourself.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
And it can trick you, and it can trick your because again, you think you're looking in a mirror and seeing yourself honestly, but you're not. And sometimes it can take a lifetime, I think, to figure that out, to realize that you're not actually looking at yourself, that you're looking through someone else's eyes at yourself. And so we have to kind of shake that out.
We talked a lot about when we were developing it is your inferiority, your superiority through your inferiority. I guess is that you are, because you feel inferior, you have to go the exact opposite way, and those are complicated things to untangle.
Yeah.
And I can't imagine the weight of that at such a young age, to know that that's happening at that age. I think that would be. I think if I knew at a younger, I don't know how would I think I would have gotten angry. I think I would have been I would have been a different person, actually. So that's interesting.
You seem, more self-assured than I was at your age. I feel like, this is getting deep, but I do feel like a lot of like Asian American men walk around for much of their lives with a clenched fist in their pocket, like ready, because, and again, I speak from a male perspective because I haven't been an Asian American female, but so I see a lot of guys, and I think they walk around ready to strike.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of sort of ultraviolet anger below the surface. It's interesting.
I think that's why your entrance into the movie business was such a, there was such a confidence and ease of, there was no insecurity about it. And I think that is contagious when we see that on the screen. When you can be funny That means you have to have a certain level of confidence of who you are to be funny or to be self-deprecating or any of those things. And I think that we don't get a lot of, or we hadn't gotten a lot of opportunity to see confident men, and that means not trying to fight everybody or feel or needing to stroke, but like literally like the center, having that center to you.
I'll resist the urge to make a self-deprecating joke and just accept the compliment gracefully. I have a technical question to ask you.
Yes.
You know, one of the things I've been thinking about for years is, you know, it's kind of this problem of, you know, that famous Aaron Sorkin email from the Sony hacks is, we don't have any Asian, there are no Asian stars, right? Mm-hmm. And I always thought, you know, my retort to him would be, you can't, when it comes to harvest time, you can't complain that there's no harvest when you didn't fucking plant anything, you know? And for me, like, you know, there is a system that has prevented, I don't want to say actively prevented, but passively prevented Asian Americans from looking like movie stars. And, you know, and I started thinking about this, this is long-winded, but, you know, I started thinking about this with Taye Diggs in Go. I remember seeing that film and seeing him, and he was a different complexion than he actually is. He was photographed very poorly, I'm sorry to whoever DP'd that, but he was very, very dark to the point where it was very difficult to see his face. And then I saw him in Stella Got Her Groove Back and was shocked that it was the same guy. He was photographed so differently. And, you know, I remembered years ago doing a film in China and going, wow, I look different, you know, like, and then I made the observation that I felt like Asian stars who come to the United States, they look better in their Asian films than they do when they come and do their American films. And I was very pleased to see how beautiful everyone was. And so I was wondering what your marching orders were, what your hiring practices were. You know what I'm saying? Like how to achieve that.
Well, one, we waited for them. Half the time they're coming and they're like, oh, you're gonna wait for my makeup to be done and wait for my dress to be done right and and my suit to be pressed right? Or you're gonna make me a suit? I think when you're not the stars of the movie, you don't get the priority. And in this, we made a very conscious choice because we heard a lot of that, of people saying, well, yeah, when you're the assistant, whatever, they're not going to give you the time. And so we made a very conscious choice. And I actually told my DP, Vanya, who had done a Marco Polo there, did a bunch of stuff there, had a great crew. And we had a global crew, not just from we had a great Malaysian crew, great Singaporean crew, but from a lot of different places there. And I said, I want the most beautiful movie I've ever shot. So whatever you do, I want to be able to look at this movie and say, oh, this is my most beautiful movie. And so you felt that pressure every day. I kept saying to him, is this the most beautiful movie I've ever made? And he would be like, yep. And then he would go tweak and
I'm talking specifically, of course, about Jimmy O Yang, who looked delicious.
In that gold thong, his request, by the way, there was no thong moment, and he requested that gold thong. I don't know if you could see it. Actually, it just looks like his bare butt.
Well, it was gorgeous.
So, yes, he is.
I think we're being told to wrap up.
Oh, we are.
We have to wrap up now.
That was a good move to end on a Jimmy O Yang gold thong.
That was great.
Hey, thank you so much.
Thank you, brother.
It's
That was a treat. I've been holding in all these questions.